So do you think that's something where that like a lot of newbies should focus on when they come in is just focusing solely on the technique, not wasting energy, not trying to like power people off or explode out, but actually work on finding that gap, getting the time, not wasting energy, kind of building, do people come in and focus too much on the sexy stuff like the submissions rather than the escapes and getting the fundamentals and the basics right? Where do you see people going wrong when they start jiu-jitsu or return to it?
First is ego. First is people's ego. Like men, we have a lot of ego. We hate to
Mhm.
lose. So I think for a man to accept defeat to another man is very hard. So you're going to use as much power as you can not to lose to the other person. Like a kid has no ego. Like you watch a kids class, you watch two kids training. They will accept being under pressure, being in a bad position, and still be very relaxed. Kids, they don't care. They can get swept, they can get mounted, they roll around one place to the other, and they do all that being very relaxed. You don't see them like powering the way out of that. That does not happen with adults. Adults, they will muscle their way out, not because they won't accept defeat. They won't accept being defeated by another man because of the ego. Like I can't
Mhm.
be defeated, to that person. So I'm going to try to muscle my way out of that. I think that's the main thing with a man, with adults, with us when we are adults. Is first is like we have our ego won't let us relax because we can't lose. Because when you're learning, the learning process, I mean, you will be put in a bad position. You get caught. So if you leave the ego on the side, you will not going to try to muscle your way out of that. So in that process, if you don't do that, you'll be developing your technique because you will try not to get caught, but not maximize, using all your as much power as you can. So people with a lot of ego, they take much longer to learn because they will try to rely on power as much as they can. That's why smaller people, they will always much more technical than big guys because big guys, they're just going to try to overstrength everybody because they're big. They're not going to be relaxed. They're not going to accept being beat up by someone half their size. The small guy, he has no choice. Doesn't matter how much strength and power he uses, they will never be able to defeat a much bigger opponent with their strength because the other guy is just going to power his way through. So they end up developing the defense skills and the technique way more than a big guy.
Yeah, it's like you're describing me there. I remember when I started, I was just in there going, "Yep, definitely did that." How do we lose that then? How do we lose that curve, that ego? Is it just putting yourself under, getting swept in the pressure? Because I think was it Helio that mentioned about using jujitsu as a sort of life philosophy. How do we use it to grow, to lose the ego, to build confidence, but sort of understand we're there to help our teammates to be the best version of ourselves, not care about tournaments and wins and stuff, but actually grow as a person as much as developing your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think that comes with practice for sure because eventually you will see that the repetition of the training, you will tell you that muscling in your way is not always going to help because it might help with training someone your level, your size, or somebody smaller. But the moment that you like when a beginner, when you're white belt, let's say you're just training with white belts. But the moment that let's say you get your first color belt, which is the blue belt, and now you have enough skills to train with purple belts, right? The white belt's not really going to train with purple belt, but the blue belt will. So when you get to train with someone much higher, a lot more skilled than you, doesn't matter how much strength you'll use, he's still going to catch you. But you will see his example that he's not stiff. So you will see it, firsthand that power is not you're not going to help you much. So for you to become good, you have to become skillful. That's when you start relaxing more and more because you will see that power only going to get you up to a point. It's not going to you will create a barrier. because you're not going to beat someone much better than you with power. You will still lose. And the technique, and first you get too tired, right? People that use a lot of energy and a lot of muscles, they get tired very quickly. And then when you're tired, it's suddenly you drop like your skills, and you become as if you're blue belt, you tired, you're white belt, because now you cannot defend yourself because your skills are your strength. So you learn on the process. The more you train, the more you see that you cannot rely on power. And if the people that use a lot of power, so that means the body is very stiff. So it's much easier to get injured. Because if you're resisting, you're holding for dear life, and then suddenly one pulls, like, you pull a muscle or something, you will injure yourself. People that use too much power in training, they always injure.